In this video, we are going to build an AI voice agent for real estate property viewings using Vapi's new workflow builder. In case you haven't heard about Vapi workflows before, it's a way to build AI voice agents in a visual way using blocks. Each block represents one step of a flow that you can prompt individually. Before workflows, the primary way to build AI voice agents was to put everything in one single prompt, where you define the context, the role, the style, and also the conversation flow of the voice agent. Before we start building it, let me show you a demo of how the conversation flow looks like.
Hi, this is Kate from Wemo Real Estate. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm interested in scheduling a viewing for one of your properties.
Which property are you interested in?
I'm interested in the property located at Sarah Springs.
Just a sec. Great choice. We have viewing appointments available for the property at Sarah Springs on June 12th at 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Which time works best for you?
2 p.m. sounds good.
Perfect. Could I have your full name for the appointment?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thank you, Thomas. Could I also get your email address?
It's thomas@test.com.
This'll just take a sec. Your appointment for the property at Sarah Springs has been successfully booked for June 12th at 2 p.m.
So this is what we are going to build today, and as you can see, the voice agent has a couple of tools. It has a get property info tool, which will retrieve property information for us, and also a book viewing appointment tool, which will book a viewing slot for a specific property. And what we are going to do is we are going to create an n8n workflow, which will query our database, which will be a Google Sheet. Here you can see that I created a couple of mock properties. We have a couple of information that's related to a property, for example, address, price, bedroom count, and also the viewing dates. And when the caller books a new appointment for a viewing, we are going to update this sheet. And if we are going back to the workflow, you will see that it has an other route. The first route will be when the user starts the conversation that they want to schedule a viewing. It will go to the first route and it will get the property information, then ask about the caller. After that, it will make the booking. And the second route is when the user first wants to get some information about the property. And when they do that, we are going to ask which property they are talking about. And then we are going to fetch information about the property. Then it will share the information with the user. And it will also let the caller know about the viewing dates. Then it will ask if the caller wants to book an appointment for a viewing. And if the answer is yes, it will call the book viewing appointment tool, which will initiate the booking. And when everything goes well, it will just hang up the call. So this is what we are going to build today. To get started, let's create a new workflow. You can click on create new workflow. And I'm not going to use any templates now. So we can click on blank. And let's give a name to the workflow. I'm going to call it a real estate booking. Then we can click on create blank workflow. And when you create a workflow, you will see only one node, which will be the introduction. This is where you define the first message when the assistant picks up the call. You can see on the left side that you can define the global prompt. This is where you define the role of the assistant, the response guidelines, the whole conversation style. So we are going to start with this. So let's say you are Kate, an assistant for a real estate company. Your primary task is to provide information about properties and help callers schedule a viewing appointment. And let's define some response guidelines. Don't mention year when telling about the dates. And let's also add the rule, which will be when collecting address, it's enough to get the street name of the property. You can add much more things here, but we are not going to build a very complex voice agent now. So this will be enough for us. We can close this. And for the first message, let's say, hey, this is Kate from Wemo properties. How can I help you? And we also need to provide a voice for the voice agent. So if we open up the voice settings, you can pick a voice. I'm going to use a Vapi voice. Let's pick page. So let's close this and try it out by calling the assistant.
Hey, this is Kate from Wemo Properties. How can I help you?
As you could hear, it read the first message, so it's working properly. And from the first step, depending on the caller's response, we will go different ways. So the first way will be when the caller wants to book a viewing appointment, and the second one is when the caller wants to get some information about a specific property. So let's handle the first case. Let's click on this plus button. And let's add the conversation node. And in between two nodes, you can define a condition. So in our case, it will be when the user wants to book an appointment for a property viewing. And when the condition will be true, it will go to this conversation node. So let's set this up. I'm not going to write anything for the first message. I'm just going to define the prompt. If the caller provided information about which property they want to schedule a viewing appointment for, then proceed to the next step. Otherwise, if the caller didn't provide information about which property they want to book a viewing appointment for, then ask which property are you interested in viewing. Then we also need to define the voice here. So what I noticed is that for every conversation node, we need to pick a specific voice. So if you want to use one voice, and ideally you only want to use one voice through the whole conversation, then you have to select it for every conversation node. There's no global settings for this, unfortunately. So let's pick page again here. And if you scroll down a little bit, we also need to extract some variables because we will need to store the property address. This is the data that we will send to n8n to get information about the property. So let's click on add variable and let's edit it. And the name will be property address. And let's also add a description. And this is needed in order to tell Vapi the purpose of this variable. So I'm going to say the address of the property the caller is interested in. Then we can click on save and let's save the workflow. So after the user provided information about the property they want to view, we are going to call a tool. So let's click on this plus button again and let's select tool. And between these, I'm going to say the user provided the property address. And if you go into the tool, here we will need to select a tool that we previously made. I'm going to select get property info. And let's save this. I will show you how this looks like. So if you want to create a tool, you need to click on create tool and you need to select function. Then you need to fill in a bunch of data, for example, the tool name, the tool's description. It's important to make them descriptive because based on the description, Vapi will know if they need to invoke this tool or not. And what I did here is I gave a name for the get property info and I added this tool's purpose is to retrieve information about the property for the caller. So it will know that it needs to call this one when the user wants to get some information about a property. And if you scroll down a little bit, I added a property address parameter, and this will be the address that we will extract from the user. I made it required so it won't continue the conversation unless the caller provided this thing. And if you scroll down a little bit, you will see that we also need to fill in the server URL field, but we will get back to it once we have the n8n workflow. And we did similar things for the book viewing appointment tool. I provided a name and also a description. And here we will need to pass a couple more parameters. For example, the name which will be the name of the caller. Everything will be required, by the way. The email, which will be the email of the caller. The viewing date, and the user will be able to select it after the AI let them know about the viewing appointments, and also the property address, just like at the other tool. And we will also provide a server URL, which will be the same as for the get property info. So let's go back to the workflows and let's continue working on it. But before we do that, let's give a name for this tool so we will know the purpose of it. I'm going to say get property data. And after we receive the property information, we will need to let the caller know about the viewing dates. So let's create another conversation flow. And the first thing I'm going to do is set a voice again. Let's select page. And I'm also going to define a prompt, which will be, you will receive information about a property. Let the caller know about the viewing dates and ask which one works for them. This is the only thing that we need to do here. And when we have that, let's scroll down again and we need to extract one variable, which will be the viewing date. So let's add the variable and let's edit it. And I'm going to call it viewing date, which will be the preferred viewing date for the selected property. And now we can click on save. Let's also save the workflow. And let's add the next node, which will be also a conversation node. For the condition, I'm going to say the caller picked a viewing date. Let's close this. And for the conversation, let's select the voice. And let's add the prompt, which will be your task is to collect information about the caller in order to book a viewing appointment. You need to collect the caller's full name and email. And let's also add these fields to the extract variables section. So let's add the first variable, which will be the name. And for the description, we can say the full name of the caller. You can save it, and let's also add the email variable. Email, the email of the caller. Let's save it, and let's save the workflow. And after we received all this data, we need to call the book viewing appointment tool. So I'm going to click on the plus button, and let's select tool. And here on the right side, let's select book viewing appointment. Then we can click on save. And let's also rename this. This will be the book viewing appointment. Let's close this. And after it booked the appointment, we will end the call. So you can just add an end call node. And here you can define an end call message, which will be, thank you for calling. Have a great day. Nothing special. So now we can click on save. And in order for this to work, we need to start working on the n8n workflow. Then when we have that, we will create the second route. So let's open n8n and let's create a new workflow. And for the first node, let's add the webhook. It will be a post request. And let's set the response to using respond to webhook node. And let's switch to the production URL. And now we can copy the URL. And to finish setting up the tools, you need to go back to the tools page. And you need to paste the URL in this field. And you need to do it also for the other tool. So both tools will use the same URL. And once you have that, you can click on save. And the next thing we are going to do is add an AI agent. And for the source for prompt, let's select define below. And here we will define what should this AI agent do when it will receive a data. So we can start with task, which will be you work for a real estate company. You will receive a tool call name. Based on the tool call name, you need to perform different actions. So once we receive data from Vapi, it will also send the name of the tool. And based on the name of the tool, we will get the property information and book the viewing appointment. And we will need to tell the AI agent which action it will need to perform. If you do it this way, we only have to use one n8n workflow, and we can just leave everything to the AI agent. So let's continue with the tool call names. And the first one will be get property info. And if it receives this tool call name, then you need to retrieve property information based on the address of the property. And the output will be create a readable sentence from the received data. It will be read by an AI voice agent. Don't include the property ID in the sentence. And let's add another one. Also include the viewing date and time. And let's define the book viewing appointment. If it receives this one, you need to book a viewing appointment about specific property. And the output will be let the user know whether the booking was successful or not. And let's provide some generic rules. And I'm going to add don't include a line break and quote characters in the response. And what I noticed is that n8n will fail if the response has a line break character, and also we will put the response sentence in quotes. So if it do something like this, let's say this is the response, and if it do another quotes within these quotes, then it's also going to fail. So this is why we avoid allowing it to include this character. And now to test it out, let's close this and let's add the chat model. I'm going to add an OpenAI model, and let's also add the webhook response. And we can activate the workflow. And now let's try calling it. So we can go back to the workflows. And I'm going to call it now. Okay, it sent the data to our webhook. This is enough for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this response and I'm going to pin this data. Now I can reference to the tool call name. So let's create a section for the variables. And let's say tool call name. Let's switch to expression and let's open this up. And let's find the tool call name. Nice. Let's also define the property address. And we can also drag this. Now we have this, we can create a tool for retrieving this property information. So I'm going to create a Google Sheets tool. And I'm going to set the tool description to set manually, which will be this tool's purpose is to retrieve property information from the database. And the operation will be get rows, and here you need to select your sheet. So let's select real estate viewings, and I need to select the properties. So what it's going to do is it's going to fetch all the properties, and because it will receive a property address, it will find the appropriate property based on the address, and then it's going to return that one to the voice agent. So we also need to define a webhook response here. So let's switch the response with JSON, and here we need to provide the tool call response that Vapi expects. So let's go to the Vapi documentation and let's find tool. Custom tools. Let's scroll down a little bit, and this is the result that we need to send back. So let's override this. And I'm going to execute the previous nodes. And now we can reference to the tool call ID. So let's delete this one. Switch to expression here. And here between the quotes, we can drag the tool call ID. And also we can drag the result here that is coming from the AI agent. You can see that it gave us a result which is the property located at Sarah Springs, 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, which is correct. 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. So now we can click on save and let's try it out. So let's call it again.
Hey, this is Kate from Wemo Properties. How can I help you?
Hello, I'm interested in booking a viewing appointment for the property on Sarah Springs.
Thank you for sharing that. Let me confirm you're interested in viewing the property on Sarah Springs. One moment. Great. The property on Sarah Springs is available for viewings on June 12th at 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Which time works best for you?
2 p.m. sounds good.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and book the viewing appointment for 2 p.m. on June 12th. To proceed, I just need your full name and email address. Could you please share that with me?
My name is Thomas Smith. And my email is thomas@test.com.
Hold on a sec.
Now we can hang up the voice agent and let's check the webhook. And it sent us the book viewing appointment tool with all the data. So let's copy this and let's pin this. So I'm just going to replace this with the book viewing appointment tools response. And then let's define the variables here as well. So what we have here now is we have the viewing date, and it looks like it didn't send the proper time. So we only have the date here. Let's add it here, viewing date. Let's drag it. And let's also add the name. It will be Thomas Smith. And let's also add the email. And now we can click on save. And we need to tell it to also send the time for the tool. And to do that, we need to go back to the tools. And let's find the viewing date. And here, let's say the selected viewing date and time for the property. Let's click on apply and let's click on save. And to finish it, we also need to add another node to n8n, which will be a Google Sheet node. So let's look for Google Sheets. And let's set the description to manually. And let's say this tool's purpose is to book a viewing appointment. And we also need to select the document and also the sheet, and it will be the viewing sheet for me. And for the operation, we need to select append row. And when you do that, it will show us the fields it needs to fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the model define these values. So you can just click on this button on the right side. And when you have that, you can click on save. Let's clean this up a little bit. Then we can click on save. And now we can try it out. So let's go back to the workflow. And let's call it.
Hey, this is Kate from Wemo Properties. How can I help you?
Hello, I would like to book a viewing appointment for the property on Sarah Springs.
Give me a moment. Great. We have viewing slots available on June 12th at 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Which time works best for you?
3:30 p.m. sounds good.
Perfect. To finalize your appointment, could I get your full name, please?
My name is John Smith.
Thank you, John. Could I also have your email address so we can send you a confirmation?
It's john@test.com.
Just a sec. Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
Okay, it looks like it worked. It booked the viewing appointment, but it still didn't send the time. So let's debug this. Let's go back to Vapi. And here, for the extract variables, let's add the preferred viewing date and time for the selected property. Then let's click on save. And I'm going to call it again. So I recalled the voice agent and it worked. So let's start working on the second route when it asks for property information first. Then after picking a property, it will ask if they want to schedule a property viewing. If yes, we will call the book viewing appointment tool. So let's go back to Vapi and let's add another route, which will be a conversation route. And for the condition, I'm going to say if the caller wants to get some information about a property listing. And let's close this. Let's go into the conversation node. Let's define the voice. It will be page. And let's define the prompt here. Ask the caller which property they want to get information about. And let's also say if the user has already provided the property address, then proceed with the conversation flow. And let's extract a variable, which will be the property address. So for the name, we can say property address. And for the description, let's add the address of the property the caller is interested in. And now we can click on save. And after that, let's add the get property data tool. So what we can do is we can duplicate this and let's just connect it. And we can remove the condition between these two nodes. So after it got the property data, we need to let the user know about the details of the property. So let's add another conversation node here. And for the condition, let's say if you received property information. And let's define the prompt. So if we received information about a property from the tool, then let the user know about the details of the property. And let's also set up the voice. We can click on save. And let's also ask the caller if they want to book a viewing appointment. And let's add another node. If the user said yes, we can say your task is to... Actually, we can also duplicate this node. So I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to connect with the previous one here. But the difference is that it will need to collect the viewing date also. So I'm going to say viewing date and time here. And also, let's extract some variables. We already have the name, email, but we also need to add the viewing date. I think I called it viewing date here as well. Yes, I'm just going to copy this value. viewing date. And just to make sure, I'm going to provide an example value, which will be this value. Let's click on save. And I will also do it on the other node. Viewing date, example value. Nice. And after collecting information about the user, we need to call the book viewing appointment tool. So it's just going to go straight into it. And we can remove these conditions here. Then let's click on save. And now let's test it out. So I'm going to call it again.
Hey, this is Kate from Wemo Properties. How can I help you?
Hi, I would like to get some information about the property on Sarah Springs.
Just a sec. Sure, the property at Sarah Springs has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and is 2246 Gafat. The rental price is $4,866 per month. Would you like to book a viewing appointment?
What time are the viewing appointments?
The upcoming viewing appointments are available at 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. on June 12th. Would you like to schedule one?
Yes, for 2 p.m.
Great. I'll need a few details to book your appointment. Could you please provide your full name?
John Smith.
Thank you, Joe Smith. Could you also provide your email address?
joe@test.com.
Just a sec. Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
Okay, looks like everything worked. So this was a very basic setup for how you can use Vapi workflows. You can do much more complicated things here. For example, we didn't handle all the cases. For example, we didn't do any error handling, such as if the get property data doesn't return any information, then we need to do something else. We need to maybe retry the step, or we need to transfer the call to a live person. And there are many more other cases that we didn't cover in this video. But this should give you an idea of how you can use Vapi workflows. I think it's great that now you can use nodes to build the conversation flow. You're not solely relied on just writing everything in one single prompt. And I think many people are going to use this. The only thing I don't like is that we need to define the voice on every conversation node, but I hope this will change in the future. I see that they are doing a lot of improvements, and I'm sure that this is going to change as well. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and also hit like. I'm going to share the n8n workflows in my resource hub. You will be able to find the link in the description, and I will also put it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.